Now today I want to just share a bit of a story about how entrepreneurship has brought me to faith and how it convinced me to believe in God. Now, how does owning a business and running a business, how does that have anything to do with the Bible or Christianity or Jesus? I know that right now, for everyone, there's, if you've been scrolling Instagram Reels or TikToks or whatever, you'll see that entrepreneurship is really glamorized. You'll see reels and shorts of people flying in their jets, sipping on their wine in a business meeting, driving around Mercedes and Ferraris with the clients, doing all these high-class lunches at these rooftop cafes, having a lot of free time. That's what social media shows you. That's how they try and show off being an entrepreneur, right? And honestly, that's what drew me in the first place. That's part of the reason why I was like, man, I have to start a business. But for all the entrepreneurs out there, you guys already know that is just completely nonsense. Could not be further from the truth, especially in the first few years, which I am currently in. I like to say I'm still pretty new to this whole endeavor. And yeah, it's completely opposite. People are there showing they're living a life of freedom and abundance, but actually you're broke all the time. And you definitely don't have freedom. You have to put more hours than any other job out there in order to build something of your own. In fact, your job is basically 24/7. If anything goes wrong, you have to fix it. You have to solve the problem straight away. And if you have grown to the point where you started hiring people, now you're responsible for other people's payrolls. And as the owner of something that you've built, because you've taken the ultimate responsibility, you're actually the one that gets paid last. You get what's left over after all the expenses are paid, or the product, or the costs of the product or services are paid, or your workers are paid, etc. You only get what's left over. And your performance is not a steady paycheck that you can just go home and chill and know that something's coming in every day. Your reward, or what you reap, is directly correlated to how intelligently you have, or efficiently I should say, you have built your system and your operations. So being an entrepreneur is the hardest thing I've ever done. And, well, not done, but because I'm not done yet, obviously, but it's the hardest thing I've ever started doing. And I'd like to say I did some pretty difficult things in life, right? I did quite a lot of martial art gradings, military training, esports, etc., etc. Those of you that know me, they know. But nothing is as difficult as being an entrepreneur and trying to build up and scale a business. There's just so much to learn, and there's so little guidance. Now, how does that bring me closer to God? Well, entrepreneurship is the first thing in my life that I really am trying my absolute best at, but somehow it's not enough. I can go to martial art gradings or have a sparring session or something, and I'll try my absolute best, and in the end, I'd always come through. I endure it to the end. Same thing with military training. So there are times that are completely insufferable, but when trying my absolute best and just staying strong and pulling through my sheer own willpower, I pull through. I come out on the other side. Same thing with esports. It was hard getting into the scene. It was hard climbing the ranks, was hard grinding and practicing every day, doing scrims, organizing tournaments, etc., etc. But through sheer willpower and determination, I pulled through. And entrepreneurship is currently the only thing that I am doing my absolute best at, using my sheer willpower that I have built over the years. And still nothing is happening. Now I know it's a long-term thing, but it is the hardest thing to stay in the game for me. So what happens when you've done everything you can and there's nothing else, and yet there's still such a tall mountain to climb? Well, the only thing left is you have to look somewhere else, somewhere outside of yourself. So sometimes it could be some other people, right? Sometimes it could be some other tools, right? But in the case of entrepreneurship, you know, I can't just pick and choose people, be like, oh, hey, you take over my business and you make it grow. Or I can't just find some magic tool. And when I need help, I think this is like intrinsically a human nature. When you are pushed to that limit, you always tend to seek something supernatural. That's why all these religions exist, you know, all these superstitious stuff, especially. Not even religions, just superstitious things. And for me, because I grew up in a Western country and I went to a Catholic high school, the thing I turned to was God, was Jesus Christ. And it was the first time that I admitted, and I was like, I actually need help. Like, I don't know where else to go. Entrepreneurship is like the ultimate test of your self-development. You know, through my self-improvement journey, I've done things that I've focused on which helped me build a lot of discipline, build a lot of consistency. But the main thing is discipline and consistency. And there's nothing that tests your discipline and consistency more than entrepreneurship. Once you boil down to it, having discipline, all that is just fighting the inner demons. What is the inner demons? Well, basically it's like the temptations, right? Like, for example, a very common one you hear is you want to wake up early, but sleep in. The voice tells you to sleep in. You want to go to the gym, but the voice tells you, oh, it's too far to drive and you want to save gas. You want to go talk to that girl, but the voice tells you, oh, what if she's having a bad day and you just embarrass yourself? You know what I mean? It's the voice that prevents you from taking risks and doing things that can drastically improve your life. That's the inner demon. And that's what you're fighting all the time when you're building discipline and improving yourself. And that voice, that side, never goes away. It stays with you and it always whispers in your ear for the rest of human time. And if I have to fight something like that forever, as a limited mortal being, I'm fighting something that's basically supernatural, right? It's like a tendency that's built into the ethereal threads of the universe. Newton's third law, every equal and opposite reaction. So if I have to fight, every action has an equal opposite reaction. So if I have to fight something that's like inherently evil, right? That's something that whispers in my ear infinitely, more than my mortal mind can fight off. It's unrelenting. Then I have to accept a force that is the opposite of that to stay in the fight. And the only force that's the opposite of that is God, is Jesus Christ, is the knowledge and the guidance of the Bible. So, you know, because I see the way I'm going and I'm struggling so much, that's Jesus Christ was the only place I could turn to look for help. It's interesting because God reaches you in certain ways. You know, you go all these people, all these evangelists out there, And I'm sick of evangelists, to be honest. I hated evangelists. Every time someone came up to me and said, Jesus loves you, have you heard of Jesus? I would just be like, oh man, like not this crap again. Just shut up and go away. And I was sick of it. And no evangelist will ever have convinced me to believe in Christ. But the path that was set for me has brought me so much challenge that I had nowhere else to turn to. So now I believe in God. I follow Jesus Christ. And it's funny because ever since I followed Jesus Christ, things have gotten a bit easier. I don't know how to explain it, but there are things that went against everything that I've learned about entrepreneurship. A big example is what I learned is that you have to relentlessly go at the business every day. You have to grind, the grind set. You have to never give up. Work on something every day. Keep chipping away at it. And that was what I was convinced of. I genuinely believe that. And I still believe that. But I believe in it differently now. Not the way I used to. I would have worked myself to the death. I was like driving Uber Eats for like 4 hours a day on top of my day job to try to fund my little startup. But after following Jesus and reading the Bible and hanging around some new Christian friends that I made in the city, a lot of them, they're so easygoing, I noticed. And some people that shared in church about just Christianity, like giving a sermon, some of them were like business people, or are business people, or business coaches, etc. And they're just so easygoing. They just seem so chill. And it went against everything that I've learned. I mean, how can you be so chill if you're a successful businessman? How is this possible? You can't just be so chill and laid back and not do anything and able to have a successful business. But it's not about not doing anything. It's about doing things with a certain type of balance. It's about sometimes you're doing something and then sometimes you need to step back and look at the bigger picture. And you can only see the bigger picture when you step back. When you withdraw from the front lines and take a look. And I wasn't doing that. That grind set mentality I had, I was always on the front lines. Never ending. Always on the front lines. I would never stop fighting. Even if I get tired, I don't care. I stay in the front lines. But because I was on the front line the whole time, I couldn't see the bigger picture. And ever since I saw the bigger picture, I started stepping back. My business stepped forward. I was able to identify something and pivoted my business and started going from losing money to breaking even. So it's interesting how this all works, I find. And I've been blessed because God sees me working hard and He blesses people that work hard and try and make Him proud. As a father, you want your children to work hard and be something you're proud of, right? It's like if you're a father and you had a son and you see him working hard every day. Let's say you see him trying to learn how to ride a bike, right? You see him hopping on the bike every day without anyone telling him. He wakes up early in the morning, he jumps on the bike. He falls over. Maybe he hurts himself. Maybe he cries for a little bit. Then he gets up on the bike and he keeps trying. He falls over again. He gets up, keeps trying. He's riding his bike around different routes. He's going uphill sometimes. He's taking sharp bends sometimes. He's trying to get better at riding the bike. And then sometimes he's trying to take off the training wheels and trying to ride it with the 2 wheels. If you see him put that much effort in, even without him asking you, you'd be like, you know what? I want to get my kid a new bike. He's been working so hard at it. I think he really loves bikes. For his birthday, I want to get him a new bike. But on the other hand, if he just comes to you and asks, hey dad, I want a bike, and then he never rides his existing crappy old bike, he never does anything about getting better at riding bikes, he never reads about riding, not even reads or watches videos about riding bikes, and he just keeps coming to you saying, I want a new bike because it looks cool, then of course you're not going to give him a bike. That's kind of stupid. And it works the same way with God. You know, because he sees me working hard at my endeavor, entrepreneurship, he blesses me with an opportunity that is coming to me very soon. Well, that has came to me and that I'm in the process of taking. And that opportunity has moved me, or is going to move me, to the city I've always wanted to live in. Well, not always, but, well, yeah, well, let's say that. To the city that I've always wanted to live in since I started entrepreneurship. And it's going to take me there about 2 years earlier than I originally planned. So I feel so blessed. And that's because he sees me working hard. So yeah, anyway, before I go off on too much of a tangent, that's what this video is about. This is how I followed Jesus Christ and decided to believe in God through entrepreneurship. So if you think this is going to help someone, you know, share this with them. And other than that, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.